Hey, even just because I teased you about that 10 minutes ago doesn't mean you can bring it back around.
Michelle,
like
just come
that.
over to my place. You can plug into my charger.
I have a charger. It's just not as cool as yours.
All right.
Which is fine.
Okay. I'd like to call the September 3rd, 2020 City Council meeting to order. And we will have our opening provided for us by Councilmember John Adams.
Thank you. I'm going to offer a prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this time with gratitude in our hearts to meet as City Council and members of the City of Kaysville. We're so thankful for our many blessings, and we pray that we can meet this evening with concentration and focus and care, and say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, if you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. So this evening, we have a couple of presentations before we start into our agenda. First, I would like to welcome Chief Paul Erickson and Shane Scott to give us a presentation talking about paramedic services here in Kaysville.
Mayor, council members, Kaysville residents, I appreciate your time this evening. How are you?
Chief, before you go, is the display not working? Is that what you're working on? Okay. So if you can pull up your packets, and we've got a little slideshow there you can follow.
Looking forward to
Is everybody good? Okay. Just the overview, paramedic service, why? Talk a little bit about cardiac arrest, stroke, the standard that pushes and drives the times for response times. And then Mr. Shane Scott will talk about where are we today and what are the next steps. Paramedic service. 64% roughly of the past 3 years are all medical calls for us. Of those, 50% of that are BLS transfers to hospitals, and half of those are ALS, meaning advanced life support, where we have a paramedic on board with us. It goes into a little bit of application fees, startup costs for us. We pretty much, as an advanced service, we have the drugs, the equipment, the life packs, all the most expensive stuff that you can get. So basically, we're talking about a few items that we would need to enhance our service, a few drugs, and that would be about it. We'd like to convert the current F-150 that we have converted over into a rescue vehicle, because the whole purpose as paramedics is to run really the same type of model that they run with Davis County Sheriffs. You run as that rescue unit, you get those 2 paramedics there in a timely manner, and then the transport would come from, obviously, us, on the ambulance side of it. 9 paramedics, that is the rule of thumb, if you will, for starting up as a minimum. You have 3 shifts, so you normally would have 2 or 3 on each shift, A, B, and C, and that allows for the time off, sick leaves, and stuff like that to ensure you stay with the state requirements of 2 paramedics. Does that make sense? Why? Cardiac arrest and stroke, it's all about time. As time goes on, the less time their survival rate happens. Really going through all this, meaning if you have a heart attack, you have a 10% survival rate anyway. So the fastest we can get there, and we've done pretty good here. We really have. We normally run about 8-9 saves a year, and 5 of those are the cardiac arrests. So we do well. We really do. It may not seem much with a low number, but 1 is worth it, isn't it? Requirements. Our NFPA standard drives it. The National Fire Protection Association drives our standards, which drives our time standards and the amount of people we need on scene. So if you look down there, you got 6 minutes and 4 seconds, and that's total time. That's when the caller is calling 911, that's dispatch getting us out the door, and that's our travel time as well, to include our turnout time, getting on the vehicles. That's all encompassed into that. And if you go up just a little bit and look at the 10-minute mark, if you look over on the west side, we're 10, 11 minutes away from there. And if you're counting on Davis County Sheriff, and no knock on them, they do a great job for us, we have a good partnership, but if they're coming from West Point or Syracuse or somewhere else, there's a huge delay. No doubt about that. Is there any questions on any of that?
Thanks, Chief. And if it's okay, I'd like to just fill in a couple of things. As you know, I think all of you know, Davis County provides paramedic services for our city, for everyone in the county except for Layton and South Davis Metro. So they have their own paramedic service, and they split the mill levy. So the county taxes all of us for paramedic services, and then they split that up between those three organizations. The county does a great job. We feel that we don't get the attention that we need here in Kaysville from a paramedic standpoint. I don't think the county would even disagree with that at this point. They're doing what they can with limited funds, as we all are. There's kind of a consensus here in the county that we should start working together, and we have been for about a year. Chief and I have met probably a dozen times with all the city managers, fire chiefs in the county in an effort to talk about this and what can be done. And what's exciting is we really have a real nice consensus here between everyone. If you think about Layton, they are in a position where they're probably being adequately served, but they see the greater good here for all of us to be able to work together and have our own paramedic service. And you can talk about some of the details of should a police force like the county is be responding to a paramedic call. There's been instances where they would respond and there would be both a emergency situation happening where someone needed medical attention and a perpetrator was on the loose. Do they draw their guns, or do they get down and put their hands on someone to save their life? So we'd like to see paramedic services be in our fire department and just be a medical need that's met there. So that's kind of the momentum that we have in the county. It's really exciting. We've got the county auditor and some of the commissioners involved in our meetings. And like I said, we've been meeting over a year. They've broken us up into 4 distinct areas. We've got South Davis on the south, Farmington, Kaysville, and Fruit Heights is one area, South Weber and Layton is one area, and then North Davis is another area with Syracuse and Clinton.
Correct.
And so we're all kind of we're working together, but we're also responsible for our area. And I think that's really where you're going to come in the not too distant future is, how does this look for us in our area? What does this look like? And then one of the challenging things that I say on that, if you're on the Where Are We Today slide, the potential finances are what's probably going to be the most challenging part. As the county transitions to reduce a tax, we will be asked, or I guess they don't care if we include a tax. They will just say, you're going to reduce our mill levy, and it's not called a mill levy. I keep calling it
certified tax rate.
Okay, the certified tax rate. It was a mill levy in the 80s, and I'm 30 years behind.
Yeah, it was called mill levy.
As per usual.
A little dated.
As per usual, yes.
Being honest.
It was only called there for like 2 years.
Back in the 80s, right?
Back in the 80s.
Yeah, so I apologize. But, so the certified tax rate for this service will be reduced by the county, and then all the cities will be asked to then take this responsibility on. And the transition, how that'll work, we'll work all those details out. There's a lot still to be determined. But I put on there some potential costs. So if you look at Kaysville's what Kaysville is paying today, we're paying $430,000-ish to the county, which is providing for this service, which would then revert to us if we just did an apples to apples, reduce it, include it. Now, would the 9 paramedics that the chief mentioned would cost us $830,000. So this is why we have a service that we're not 100% pleased with, is because we don't have, it's underfunded. And I think everybody would admit that, from the commissioners to the sheriff. We're not saying that we have to do that. There's also an option to share this service between Farmington and Fruit Heights. We're all going to need to pay. Does that mean we have our own paramedic unit in Kaysville and Farmington has their own paramedic unit in Farmington? eventually, that's probably going to be absolutely necessary, but maybe we could start off with sharing the cost of these 9 paramedics between the 3 agencies, and that would reduce we could probably do that for $430,000. So, again, I'm just throwing out some basic numbers, just want you to know that what we're doing and where we're talking. I know I've emailed you a couple times about this, but we're getting to an exciting part where there is some momentum, and I think it's serious enough that we wanted to bring this to your attention. And then if you go to that last slide that I have, the next steps are, we need to sit down as our area and decide how this looks for us. Does that mean 2 different units in 2 different stations? How does that impact our discussions of having a second station in our city on the west side? Is this a time to pull off a proverbial Band-Aid, so to speak, and just try and get this all done in one small tax increase? We have some interlocal agreements that we're all working on that kind of would say Davis County's stepping aside and the city's stepping up and providing this service. And then, keep in mind that Layton and South Weber are working on how it looks in their city. And the real challenge to me is Syracuse and Clinton. Are they merging with North Davis? What does that look like? Because they have their own fire departments and they're also have North Davis there. So they've got some other tricky things to work out. So I'm excited for our situation here. Transitional timeline, it's still up in the air. I think the first we'll be asked to do would be maybe 2022.
July 1st.
So, as you know, the county's on a different fiscal year than we are, so they're on the calendar fiscal year, we're on the fiscal year, so we're going to have to work on how that transition works. Is it 6 months of one or the other providing a service? And we'll hopefully work all those details out and involve you with those. And then we want to work together as a county, all the cities and the county together in a public outreach campaign that talks about why is your tax going down one place and going up in another. And I think we, as a unit, we can do that, and it'll be an exciting project for us. And it's just going. And in the end of the day, we're going to have a better service for our community. That's what's important. Cardiac arrests. How many deaths or situations are too many, and so we want to mitigate that future situation. Chief, is there anything I left out from our meeting?
No, I just want to explain as I say, we partner with Davis County Sheriff as they did with everybody in the county. That was good when we were rural. It worked 22 years ago, 24 years ago, but now that we're all here, we have mature professional fire departments, that's not the case anymore. We're right here in our own city, and we don't have to travel that far. We stay within our 11 square miles and stay pretty tight with it. So I think it's a good direction. I think it's the right thing to do, not only for our community, but for our patients and our people. Because we struggle. It's hard to sit there when you go on an EMS call and you have no choice but to wait for a paramedic unit. That hurts. So.
And that may be part of what the fire department does that you may not even be aware of, is when do paramedics come and when don't they, and there's a lot to that, and like you said, sometimes they're coming from West Point. They provide police services to West Point, so there's often a crossover there where they may be coming from West Point, and that isn't ideal all the time.
Councilmember Adams.
Oh, I didn't know if it was question time yet.
Sure.
It's up to you, Chief. Do you want to answer a question now, or do you want to wait?
No,
I think we're ready, yeah.
It's
We've gone through our slides, so.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember
So,
Adams.
and I have a few questions, but because you said that last part, one of my questions that comes up is, you say right now we're ready to consolidate to our own city. Essentially what you're saying, right? Like, instead of being part of this larger group.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Oh, no, and I don't mean it negatively. I'm just saying, from a standpoint of, like, if we're talking about a West Kaysville, West Station, because I've been looking at this and thinking a lot about when I look at the map, and there's West Layton and West Farmington, and with the West Davis corridor going in, does it make sense to you to have those areas covered by one station there collectively? Or is that not a discussion that we're even looking at right now? I mean,
It is something we are talking about, and if you don't mind, Chief, and you can fill in the gaps where I'm leaving things out, but we have just been, it's funny you asked this question, because we've just been looking at, we've asked Farmington, with the West Davis corridor coming in and some of the connector road projects that we're working on, we will have some land probably left over that is unusable for a lot of ways, and then there also might be some opportunities to purchase some land from UDOT that would probably be relatively inexpensive, which would be near the Farmington border. So we've talked to Farmington, said, is that something that maybe we could look at? As we've looked at it more, however, the heat map that would show you where we're really the slowest in responding is Councilmember Blackham's home, right?
Well, it's not so much the slowest, it's just that's where our activity is.
Yeah.
Cam, nothing's really changed, has it? In that area, south of Second North on
So that's
on
the
Flint?
That's the area where we
That's
get,
the area
where
where
we
we
respond
get
the
hard.
slowest. And if we put a station down there on the Farmington border, that sounds like it would make a lot of sense to share those resources. But then, as we ran through a model, our response times from that new station are actually worse than where they were, about a minute worse than where we are now today. So that may not be solving a problem. Now, would we be able to get on the West Davis corridor quickly? Absolutely. Could we get on I-15 quickly? Absolutely. So there are some trade-offs there. But if we're trying to solve a problem in our city,
Right.
and we're still looking at that, it's not decided, it's more of an uphill battle than I hoped it would. I was hoping that would solve all those problems, and we could say,
Just
this
one
makes
time.
sense, yeah, let's partner with Farmington, where we have a really good relationship with them right now, let's do this and work together on that,
And Councilman, if you're interested, we have a model that we did at the beginning of these talks. Actually, Syracuse chief did the model, and we are really prime as far as, because where we are geographically and where we can cover, we need a paramedic service in our city.
Got it.
Maybe something can happen south of us, but it looks pretty good. And they did a model based on 45 miles an hour, but they did no left turns. Kind of what we did out west. We did a model based on 40 miles an hour.
And West Layton is fairly well covered. I mean, because you look at, it goes wider and wider. I just didn't know if Layton is even a possibility, or if, I'm just trying to figure out a way to consolidate the
Sure.
cost. But anyway, I have a few more questions. But should we round robin, or should I just ask all of my questions?
Let's, Councilmember Tran had a question.
Just generally speaking, does the city have land in West Kaysville identified for?
we have options.
We have options, right,
Around
but
the
we don't
West Davis
actually,
corridor.
okay. Okay, I'm
yeah.
just, okay.
Not, that we don't have great options in the space we
Yeah,
want to
we
be in.
don't.
That's where we don't have great
Okay.
options. We
Counsel-
talked about buying a home in that area, a small home, putting couple people in there, so we always have options, but nothing's ideal right now.
Okay. Councilmember Blackham and then Councilmember Lortz.
I kind of have just two questions, and one of them is, if we went with the 9 guys and you consolidated Fruit Heights, Farmington, and Kaysville, and you took all that money, would it be almost a wash to actually move the paramedic program to those 3 cities by taking that, I'll call it the mill levy, to, the certified.
Come on.
Yeah, okay, and then the other question I have, but maybe would it make more, and this is just something I would like somebody to look at and answer, would it maybe, because the cost of actually making the vehicles isn't that big a deal, it's
No,
not
I
that
know.
high of a cost. But if we consolidated the 3 cities together and kind of worked together, hire 12 guys and actually run 2 units, and then when somebody's not sick or whatever, then we, on those times, we only have 1 unit. But is that a possibility?
Councilman
Because-
Black, and that's exactly right. If we're sharing resources and we got 1 paramedic in Kaysville and we got 1 paramedic in Farmington, that's really is not doing us much good. It's the same as waiting for a Davis County sheriff coming out of West Point. I mean, that's
Because you
really
need 2?
there's no doubt. You do need those 2 rescues in each one of the cities. And if we do that consolidate, and we're calling Central Davis Fire District, if they do consolidate that, then having more there, the 12, absolutely.
Then it seems like, you'd have the same coverage with having the 6 in your city, you just, you know, a lot of times you'd have 2 units going, one in Farmington, one in Kaysville, working together, and then if there is a vacation, yeah, you're down to 1, but you'd be down to 1 maybe anyway. And so that's why I'd like to know what the cost would be maybe to hire the 12 and have 2 units going, you know, because maybe it would be a pretty insignificant cost
Right.
to actually have 2 units rather
Yeah,
than.
to answer your first question, you're right. I think it would be very close to the numbers we have today. I think that 430 we're giving up and then taking back would almost pay for half of it might be
What we
4 or
worked out
5
is,
units.
each rescue, which is 2 paramedics, each rescue would cost you almost $400,000.
Okay,
Yeah. So,
thank you.
yeah.
But it would be something I'd be interested in hearing, you know, hiring 12, having 2 units, and maybe.
Okay.
Councilmember Lortz.
So I know we've had a conversation before about the fire side and not just the paramedics, but I'm wondering, isn't there the same corollary on the fire side as on the paramedic side, that if it makes sense for us to combine those 3 cities and resources for paramedics, it probably makes sense to combine in fire service?
Yeah,
I know
you
we
would-
do
Yeah, you would
Fruit
do
Heights
it.
right now, but,
It would make sense to do it all, sure.
okay, and how does this paramedic proposal impact the fire department proposal we've been talking about, trying to figure out a way to implement over the next 5 years?
You know, it's one and the same, obviously. If these paramedics, they're going to be firefighters as well.
But they don't reduce your need for those firefighters that we've been talking about?
No.
No.
I just want to make sure that's
That's
clear.
good question, yes.
The only thing that would enhance our numbers is we already have some existing paramedics, you know, so that would enhance our numbers on some sick leaves or holidays, whatever, you know.
So some fill-ins and.
Yeah,
and-
absolutely.
And you wouldn't be waiting for anybody at that point if they were in
But you
Farmington?
generally wouldn't take, both of our paramedics that we have, they're both captains, so you don't take a captain off an engine and put them over on a rescue unit as much as you would like to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Um,
appreciate it.
Councilmember Barber, do you have a question?
I just had a comment,
Okay.
but it's really in line with what Councilmember Lords was saying. So correct me if when I think of this, I feel like there's like 3 different priorities for fire that we're looking at. The first is paramedic, which you've just moved to, or talked about. So moving from the county model to a city model would actually be tri-cities with these 3 cities together. So that's one priority. I don't want to say number 1 because that's my next question.
No particular order?
Yes, in no particular order. Number 1, and then more firefighters, like we were just talking about, just the staff of firefighters, increasing that so we have more, and then the West Side Fire Station. And so I feel like the problem is, I think identifying, what we hear from residents all the time, we just need everything right now. But I think when we look at it and we prioritize, like, we're looking at each of these things, but they're all separate. They're all separate endeavors. They'll work together, and we're going to try to maximize, but it's not like one is going to come at the cost of the other. It's not like we'll get paramedics, but not the West Side Fire Station. So I think that's really important to be clear on here. We're not picking and choosing what we want. We're just saying, how do we prioritize all of these needs?
Right.
And it sounds like paramedic seems like a very high need, but we also know additional firefighters are as well, and the West Side Fire Station will come when we're prepared for it. Does that sound right?
I agree.
I hope we have additional firefighters long before we have the paramedics
Yeah,
in the inner
right.
city. That
Absolutely.
would be.
That's what we've been
'Cause
talking
one-
about and preparing
Yes.
for,
And
yeah.
I don't want to keep going on this, but, we're running with 4, and it's not safe.
Yeah. And I think we've done a good job of this. Councilmember Blackton's done a really good job of highlighting that need. I think we're all really on board. So I just want to make it clear, they're not going to compete with
They're
each other.
completely separate.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and that's a
Yeah.
good point. We should
At the
probably.
same time, it's nice and kind of synergistic to be talking about all these things at the same time. So if we had to raise a tax for this, for some kind of fire,
Yeah.
whatever we decide,
Yeah.
it would be nice to know that we don't do that in 1 year and then go, oh, by the way, we want to build a $5 million fire station too.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
decide these things and work this out in the next couple of years, and
Yeah.
it's, so it's kind of exciting that those things are happening at the same time.
That was going to kind of be my next,
Councilmember Adams and then Councilmember Tran.
that was going to be kind of my next question. I mean, and forgive my ignorance, but do they ever cross-train as far as fire and paramedic? I mean.
Yeah, they still are certified firefighters.
Okay.
Paramedics are,
That was my
absolutely.
question. I mean, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
you know, you say that right now, getting firefighters is more important, but they could still jump in and help fight the fire.
No, absolutely.
If they need
Absolutely.
to. And so I guess I'm confused. We would want to get 3 shifts of paramedics before we would get 3 shifts of firefighter, or we want to get 3 shifts of firefighters before we get 3 shifts of paramedics?
Well, you gotta realize, if we take over the paramedic, we're losing a program.
And that was like my second question with the program. I mean, that money, is that just Kaysville City pays them
Kaysville City
430
residents.
or the residents pay?
Through
Because I'm
taxes.
really curious as to see if they would honestly fire the paramedics that they currently have,
They wouldn't use the term fire for sure.
well,
But yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, I've never heard of a situation where they'd be like, oh, okay, well, you guys aren't gonna, levy these
Downsizing you.
taxes, so we're gonna downsize ours. I don't think they would downsize. I think that,
They probably won't very
so would we
much.
really get that 430 back?
No, we
is my
will.
question.
They would do that. We wouldn't do what we're doing to raise taxes until they lower
Yeah,
taxes.
whatever
for
our
sure.
residents are paying in, that's what the auditor's already told us that. And, Chief Sparks has been in all these conversations as well, and is very.
Davis County Sheriff.
Yeah.
But like, who's gonna cover that 430 delta is all I'm
Well,
questioning.
we're actually more concerned about being able to hire enough paramedics. This is going to cause a hiring not frenzy,
Oh, yeah.
maybe that's a tough word,
It
but
is.
we're going to have we're not going to have enough people to fill these spots for all these cities. That's more of a concern than the
Paramedic positions
opposite
are
of losing
rare.
people to the
Yeah.
sheriff.
Oh, no, and that's not what I'm talking, I guess what I'm talking more about is that, we're saying that the 430,000 revenue shift, right? We're saying that we'll no longer have to pay that, so really it's only costing us 400 grand. Is that kind of what the numbers are saying
No,
here?
the 430, the residents will see no difference if we do it the way that we're proposing today, which would be the county lowers their mill levy, their appropriate amount, and we raise taxes the same amount for the same dollars. So you at your home, you'd pay exactly the same amount, you'd paying it to the city instead of
Rather
paying
than
it to
the
the
county.
county.
And maybe it doesn't matter how I'm trying to figure out how the county's gonna keep paying for that.
That's what the clerk auditor's for.
One of the
He can figure
things
that out.
that maybe I could make a comment is,
Councilmember Blackman.
as through the years working with these paramedics, I can tell you about half of them would rather just do the medical side of things. That's really what they like, a lot of them. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was openings to hire paramedic firefighters on our side. I'm sure that there would be a time that they would allow maybe some of them to get some of their fire certifications.
Yeah, we've thrown
maybe.
that at the sheriff as well,
And
to
I
include
would
having them just
venture
ride
to
with us.
say, you would
Yeah.
see some of them actually rather go to the fire side, because over the years, we've seen a lot of the paramedics in Davis County Sheriff's Department go to full-time fire
Yeah.
departments.
We have one working for us part-time right now.
We're also well into the weeds, which is fine, but one other thing we're looking at is doing a paramedic school specifically for folks to get them up to speed so we could hire them through Weber County, Weber.
Yeah, Weber State is-
Weber State or the DTC
Willing
or
to
something
work with
like
the
that.
county.
And I just want to throw out that something that makes sense to me as far as financing this is, I would love for us to, just as we have, enterprise funds specifically for our water or power, I would love to see us having something specific to our public safety, both police and fire, and have that, if we're going to raise a tax, I would like to, if it were possible, I'd like the residents to be able to vote on that and support our police and fire and have dedicated funds specifically for police and fire. Something to think about as we're going forward. And that way it can't be reallocated and it's earmarked specifically for public safety. So something that we can continue to think on as we go forward in order to finance this. And that would include the building as well. Tammy, did you have another question? I
Well,
forgot.
my question was kind of answered. It was just about the cross-training. So I just wanted to make sure, so a paramedic is not necessarily trained in fire.
No, they are.
Okay, they are. Okay, but firefighters are not necessarily trained as paramedics.
There
Is
you
that,
go. Correct.
is that correct? Okay. So there can be some cross-training or cross-utilization, but it's not just a given that they can just sort of switch
Right.
and support
It's-
each other
they
that
got-
way?
They got probably a year of prerequisites and then a year of paramedic school, so, you know, it's a process.
But right now, when the Davis County paramedics come, they don't help us fight fires.
Correct.
They're
They
only
They
paramedics.
come and if they need to be paramedics, they be paramedics, then they leave. I think, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, if we had paramedics in our city, they could come and help fight fires if there was no paramedic duties to do.
Absolutely.
So we are
Okay.
further covered.
That's why I was
That's-
confused at why we wouldn't want to hire the paramedics first,
Because they could
because they could do both.
also support
We
fire.
don't
Maybe
even-
I don't
We
see
don't
it.
even have a paramedic license yet.
Oh, okay.
That's another thing.
Yeah,
There's a lot of these
we just have
logistical
an
hurdles that we're
advanced
still going over.
But that was a good point,
But
though.
that's a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, that is, because.
Another benefit of this program, though.
We have a few part-timers that are paramedics, and we have a few full-timers that are paramedics with us right now, and they're also certified firefighters.
Okay, thank you. Awesome.
All right. Okay, do you want to carry on? Any other
Nope. I think we're-
questions?
we're-
Are we
we're
good?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, Chief, we're so grateful for your
Thank you.
work
Thank
on
you.
this.
Thank you.
And appreciate, it's great to have somebody looking towards the future on this. And love the camaraderie and the esprit de corps, as it were, in Davis County to
It's
try to
exciting.
get something that covers all of our residents more sufficiently. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
for your time.
All right. And now, Cole is going to give us an update on Parks and Recreation Department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parks and Rec and Facilities.
We'll go into that. But now that Chief Erickson's got y'all thinking dollar signs, I'll just keep at it. I'll just keep adding to it, so. No, we support our fire department. They are great people to work with, so we have nothing but support. And I'll also make a comment, I'm sure Ryan is just getting anxious by the minute to be in his own building, where he has control over this.
We all are, let's
Whether he
be
has
honest.
the control of the screen dropping down and working, so give us one more meeting in this building and hopefully October
Yeah.
1st.
If I can just interject,
whoa.
I was able to take a quick tour of the building, and the IT and the AV over in the council chambers are going to be wonderful, and really appreciate the efforts that both our IT department and you, Cole, have put into making sure that our residents are going to be able to see better and hear better, and will be able to see better and hear better. So I'm pretty excited. It's looking
And
great.
I'll talk about that here in a little
Yeah.
bit, but it's, we're excited. I'm
Weight
excited.
reducing cameras?
What's that?
Weight reducing,
I don't know, Ryan maybe got some filters he could
Ask
add
for
to
that.
it,
Is that hair?
it's like a,
so. That was one request we didn't have initially was that. We'll have to look into that.
we all have Blackham hair.
I'm sure you can have a filter.
But I'm excited just to present some information on Parks and Recreation. So the official title of our department is Parks, Recreation, and Public Properties. So it does cover quite a bit. And just because maybe some don't know, but I just kind of gave you a department, our staff, kind of how we're structured. We operate with 9 full-time employees split between Parks, Recreation, Cemetery. But the bulk of our work we couldn't do without the makeup of our seasonal staff and our part-time staff, whether it's in recreation programming or our park seasonals or our cemetery seasonal employees. They really do make up the bulk of what we're able to do with the staffing that we have on a full-time level. So that's kind of how we're split. I'm going to go through each of our divisions really quickly. There's basically 5 that we classify: cemetery, parks, recreation, facilities, community events, and then, did I say 5? There's 5. We'll go through them. But cemetery. Cemetery was founded in 1865, one of the oldest cemeteries in Davis County. And I just kind of gave you a little quick snapshot of our 6-year burial history within the cemetery. We're tracking this year in FY '21 to equal or supersede FY '20 and FY '19. So as the city grows, just like everything else, as the city grows, the cemetery use increases as well. And so that's one of the factors with the cemetery, is just it's the more use that it's seeing. When I say use, I'm talking about interments, also headstones. And the slide that I didn't show on there, just for your information, we have about 17,000 burials in the cemetery. Well, 17,000 headstones, not burials, there's more than that, but so there's 17,000 headstones within the cemetery that we try to do our best to keep on top of. They do sometimes get away from us. And then the next, just kind of highlight, is our parks. We feel like we have one of the better park systems in Davis County and in northern Utah, and we're proud of all the things we're able to do, especially with the manpower that we do have. So I have 4 full-time parks employees that maintain and prepare all of our parks on a daily basis, which is about 158 acres of manicured property. So that's, when I say manicured, that's about what your front yard, your yard looks like. The next slide kind of gives you some details on some of that. So we have 158.29 developed park and public properties. Fire stations, city hall block, all that is included in that developed acreage. And then we have 214 of undeveloped park and public properties. But the biggest component of that is the East Mountain Wilderness Park, which is 140 acres, which is a great asset to the community. There's another agenda item later on in your city council that deals with a project in the Wilderness Park. Some of the projects coming up in our park system is the City Hall landscaping, which will occur in the fall. Our big focus right now is to get in the building, and then we'll worry about the landscaping as we get in the building. But that should start this fall. We have the Schick Farm property. We haven't named it yet, but it's the former HOA park site down on the end of 200 North. We inherited that property from the HOA back in 2018.
Yeah, end of 2018.
Yep, and part of the agreement with that is that the south portion of it, we need to start developing in 2021, which is next year. So that does require some finance to be able to do that. So it's just the south side, and then the north side, part of the agreement was we'd start development on that in a 5-year time frame. So
Do you want to define what it means by developing on it? for
so
that
developing
south
means
side
right now it's just
specifically?
considered an undeveloped property.
Yeah.
So developing it means we go in and put infrastructure in, whether that's grass, sidewalks, irrigation system.
So are
we
you
have-
talking about the horse arena and parking area on the south side?
Yep.
Yeah,
You have to
Yeah.
develop
So it
more
won't-
than the horse arena?
yeah.
Well, we're gonna-
It's not going to be a horse.
It's not going to be a horse arena.
I know long-term, but I mean, when they say develop it, I mean, like, say it is kind of developed.
Well, it
Well,
means,
It means it's going to be usable
Grass.
for public.
Yeah.
So
Remodeled.
remodeled. That's
but it's
probably
also
gonna-
not going to be a quote-unquote park. There's not going to be like
Well, it'll be a passive park.
play
So-
structures. And,
Yeah, so when we differentiate passive and
Yeah.
maybe more
This is
active,
Active
end of
play, yeah.
200 North and
Yeah.
right by the Schick
past
Farm, or the Schick substation on 200 North, you can see the
Just past
definition.
Wellington.
So there's a property to the south and a property to the north that has an old, has a pavilion on it.
Yeah.
So those are the two properties that we're currently working on some design components
Yeah.
with that. So that will be coming before you, at least the south portion, next budget year for some development on that. Then this year, we did add 3 pickleball courts. When I say we, I mean, I'm taking that a very broad approach because it was was 100% funded by the pickleball community through donations. The
was
court
awesome.
construction was funded by that. The city's contributions are, of course, the land and then all the landscaping modifications and all that stuff.
And
that goes into that, and the maintenance. Forever. And yes, we'll just leave it at that. We won't talk about all the phone calls, so.
Nope, let's not.
But no, we're great. We love pickleball, and it's been a great thing. So those are a couple of the big things coming up in parks. Our recreation, if I was here a year ago talking about recreation, what an awesome program we're running, and then all of a sudden in March of 2020, things changed pretty drastically. And so I'm very proud of my recreation staff for the way that they handled basically shuttering every program that we had in March. I think it was March 13th, our first the last junior jazz game of the season we canceled. And from that point on, everything else was canceled until we started back up in June. If you go to the next slide. Kind of just still gives you some highlights of our recreation, what our recreation program offers throughout the community. We offer anything from 3 years old up to seniors in a variety of programs. Our largest program this year is our soccer program, which just started last week with its first games of the season. We have just close to 1,700 participants. An interesting thing this year that we were a little bit surprised by is that our soccer numbers decreased a little bit, but our tackle football numbers increased. So just one of those things that we wouldn't have pegged that would have been.
It's 2020,
anticipated-
come on now.
It's true.
People have a lot they need to get out.
We anticipated our numbers being a little bit down, but we didn't anticipate tackle football being above. And just so you are aware, with all of our programs, we have a return to play document that we're operating on. It's a combination of the Utah High School Activities Association documents, the Davis County School District guidelines, and also the Utah Leads Together as far as how our programs are operating and trying to do them in a safe manner and things like that. And so, knock on wood, everything so far is going very well. But our Big Five programs, which are baseball, softball, football, soccer, we serve about 5,000 participants throughout the year. We're happy to be playing, and it's kind of the motto that we had through the spring is we had to figure out a way to get people back playing. However that looked, whatever we needed to do. And so credit to our recreation staff for coming up with plans and signage and just education to help get kids back out playing. I will note, it kind of talks back to our park system, but this year we have not seen our parks any busier than they have ever been in the past. So we're grateful that we have parks that allowed people the opportunity to get out when they were, quarantined, couldn't do a lot of things. We're happy. Our trail system, I didn't really highlight that, but I will talk about that here in a minute. So, community events. Let's just say this was a year of no community events.
Don't remind us.
Unique community events. Let's just say that. So we are looking with our Veterans Day program and our Kaysville Gives, the two final ones that we typically do. The Veterans Day program, of course, we're not going to be able to do a lunch just because that lunch is to a high-risk group. But we are exploring some ideas to whether it's delivering box lunches to those veterans that sign up, things like that. We're looking at some options. And the Kaysville Gives, we still want to do that, and we're moving forward with that one. May just do some things a little bit, tweak them a little bit, but that program will happen. And we're hopeful that in 2021 that if our events need to look a little bit different, they will, but we're going to do our very best to make sure that we have some sort of events that people can be proud of. So, and our facilities, which is another unique component of Parks and Recreation, is that we oversee, because of public properties, we oversee all of our facilities. That's the general maintenance, upkeep, also all the exterior. So anything to do with the building, we take care of, with the exception of Ryan does everything IT. We don't do anything IT, but if it comes to projects, remodeling, painting, HVAC systems, our department takes care of that. And in total, we maintain 80,100 square feet of facilities. And so we do that kind of in a hodgepodge with, I pretty much take the facilities on myself just because there's just not enough of us to go around to get everything. So it is a big undertaking. Fortunately, we have a pretty good preventative maintenance program in our facilities that we don't have a lot of issues. The fire station seems to be our problem child right now. We got the roof fixed. Now we have some electrical, now that they've left, and they can't back me up here.
Geez, what are they doing in there?
I don't know, but our water system in there, our pipes are like, if you walk in our changeout room, we haven't repaired the ceiling because about every month, we have a water line that starts springing a leak. So 2 months ago, we
Who
replaced.
inspected that, did you?
Hey, don't you remember when there was a run of bad copper?
Yeah.
About in 2000?
We got
I don't
it.
remember that.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So we're fighting it right now, but.
They call a lot of people. I call Spears. Spears will tell you about it.
They will. So just kind of, so it's just a continually work in progress to do that. So I'm excited for the new City Hall to come online, and hopefully, if I knock on wood again, and if you don't listen to Councilmember Blackham, we'll be in there 1st of October. So he's still doubtful. So, but just to give you a couple. It's true. He's pretty good at what he did for his whole career. So, but just give you a couple highlights on that building. The parking lot will get asphalted next week on Thursday. We did our big punch list last Friday on the interior of the building. There's still some items that they need to check off. So, we're very hopeful that within the month of September that we can be occupying the building, and we need to give it a couple go-arounds before we bring the public in for a city council meeting, because Ryan doesn't want to have the screens not work in the council room. But we're excited. It's going to be an awesome building. It's going to serve the public very well and us, of course, staff for the future. Go ahead. And this is just, I don't want to emphasize our challenges, just to kind of highlight some things, kind of piggybacks on maybe looking ahead, similar to what the fire department and all the departments are doing, is looking ahead as what's coming down the pipeline. There's going to be some challenges that we've got to deal with. One of them is with our facilities. If you exclude the police department and the new city hall, because that all has new equipment, it's our aging HVAC systems. Prior to the city hall going under remodel, the HVAC system to that building was original to 1986. So all of our furnaces, air conditioning units were original to 1986. Our Public Works facility, Operations Center, same problem we're having there. It's all original to 1992. So as we look at our facilities, that's one of the things that we need to start addressing, is upgrading our HVAC systems and those things. Of course, roof issues. A big one that will be coming down the road is going to be the Operations Center. It's a flat roof, tar and gravel. It does have some leaks, but it's, again, original to the building of 1992. So it's 28 years old, trying to get it through its next couple years, hopefully. So, and then just a couple other things that I won't highlight. You can read through them. Parks, big thing is just staffing, just like everybody else. The more we get, we add acreage, we add properties, and just the manpower to go through and maintain those. I will highlight just one thing with our parks is our playground replacement. Just to give you an idea, we have 13 playgrounds. Each one of those playgrounds lasts an average of 15 to 20 years before they age out and need replacing. So, if you've got 13 of them, we should be doing a playground about every year and a half to 2 years throughout the city. And those, again, aren't cheap. They're about $100,000 a piece by the time you do that. So, our recreation, this is another one I wanted to highlight. I won't read all the things in there, but it's just our lack of space for gymnasiums, where we rely solely on the Davis School District for space. I'll just use an example. This year's Davis High School. We typically we can run our junior jazz program on Saturdays throughout January through March, and we have pretty much every Saturday. This year we have 5 Saturdays is all we have. They've blacked us out just because of their growing, and they have program. Nothing against the school district. They're great to work with. But just to show you our program is going to have to drastically change this year when it comes to junior jazz. Because if we only have 5 Saturdays, they typically get 7 games. So how's that going to work? So we're still trying to figure that out right now. Our first program there starts in November. So, and then the last thing I wanted to highlight was just cemetery, long-term planning for that. We are landlocked in the cemetery. And so we've done some things right now to help prolong that, the way we sell spaces and the rights to spaces, and kind of shrunk some, not shrunk the spaces, but we got rid of some waste area that we had that we're now utilizing in a little bit better fashion. So those are just things down the road that maybe not this city council, but a future city council will need to address the cemetery and where do we go? What does that look like? Now I just want to end with this last slide, just the value of Parks and Recreation. Hopefully you all know that we're grateful that the city council supports Parks and Recreation in Kaysville, and that the community does use the facilities and use our systems, whether it's parks, trails, you name it. People are out using those. And so we're grateful for the support that we have, and I think the citizens hopefully are grateful too. Are we perfect? No, but we do try to give the best product out there. And then open up if anybody has any questions. I've probably taken too long, so.
Okay. It's not as long as our last discussion, so.
Yep.
At least not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Until we open it for questions. All right. Any questions or comments?
I have one.
Councilmember Tran and then Councilmember Blackham.
I was just going to say, thank you for opening the trail gates.
Well, you could
Yes.
probably.
Is that Public Works that does that?
No, it's us.
Oh, okay.
We had a little bit of a push from a certain individual who was right. No.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Councilmember Blackman's been bugging us for years to.
If we could
do it,
get
so.
Farmington to do that, that would be so awesome.
Farmington's, they've talked to me, and they're adamant that they're not.
Yeah,
So,
okay, well,
But I'm
Kaysville's
like, well-
awesome, so.
Because everyone's speed
It's-
significantly
it's-
slows down when we hit that border.
and I will
It's
say,
so
coming
nice.
to the meeting today, it was the first time that we've had the flashing signs up for about a year now. Today was the first time I actually saw someone using them.
Yeah.
I feel like I see people crossing all the time not using it.
I know.
I
Yeah.
hope
So-
they would just
Some are
look
solo
and see.
activated,
They're so
user
nice.
activated,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
it
I
is
used
really
them all
nice.
yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome,
it's
yeah.
so nice. Anyway,
I
great job.
think people just need to see other people using them.
Yes.
And set the example
Yep.
of, being safe. Councilmember Blackham.
Do you see that, are we utilizing the junior high's gyms and all that? Are you seeing any way we're going to get more gym space in the future without having to build our own?
Well, right now, so this year, we're actually, we've tried to stay away from elementary schools because they don't have what's a true gym. Their gyms are a hybrid cafeteria. This year, we're actually they'll push us to go into the elementary schools to use those.
Can you use those
So-
for the little kids?
The little kids, and then it's going to be different. This year, it's going to be a little bit interesting too with COVID and what kind of.
That's what I didn't know, if
Limitations.
COVID was, you were losing some gym space because of COVID, and maybe you were going to see it, but next year.
We've been seeing it every year. Slowly, their
Okay.
gyms are being taken away. And it's because the school district's programs are growing and, they have needs too. So we're just,
Wasn't it a play last year that?
yeah,
we had a
Centennial
bunch
Junior
of our-
High had a
yeah.
play that,
Which is a great thing.
it is. So,
But it cost wasn't it an adult basketball program last year that we had? to
yeah,
cut?
Davis High, we lost our adult men's league back in
Yeah.
2019.
I mean, that's sad.
so-
It'd be great to have it.
They've got ward ball.
You what?
Yeah, so we're looking at.
save some injuries in this.
We're looking at all options. We're just exploring right now. So we're not coming saying we need this right now. We're just getting it out in front of everybody that, hey, this is a
It's just the
problem we're
reality,
trying
yeah.
to deal with, so.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Okay.
Okay. And Cole,
Super awesome.
I just, you've got a great team, and it's amazing how much you get accomplished with the crew that you do have. So pass along our gratitude to them for us. All right. Okay, any conflicts of interest? Okay. Consent agenda. Would anybody like to move the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we move consent items A and D, but have discussion on the other three.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion for items A and D by Councilmember Lortz, seconded by Councilmember Adams. Any comments? Okay, let's vote. Councilmember Tran? Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. All right, let's go to B. Councilmember Lortz?
I just wanted to hear the resolution of the request last time to check on the alternatives, because there was nothing changed in the thing, so I just wondered what happened.
Well, I don't think there's ever any alternatives. I think most of the items had been purchased with CARES funds already. So I know that Chief has interacted with, I don't know the gentleman's name.
Yeah, Jones, Mr. Jones.
Yeah. So he's definitely open to that and looking at that, but I think these items have been
I think it brought up,
purchased
though,
and-
I think it brought up a good point, though, that we were purchasing things with the CARES fund, but then we still had to bring it before council, so it was almost like, say we had not approved it, well, we already bought it. You know, I mean, I think that it brings up a hole in our, or a glitch in our system with the CARES, because we've already approved the use of the funds, right? But because it's over 25,000, it has to come before council. And it kind of, I mean, it did confuse me a little bit, because I was like, wait, we already purchased them, then why did we have to approve it? What would we have done if we had not approved it?
I have an answer for that. You did approve the CARES funds to be spent already. So,
Yeah.
so you could argue that that didn't need to even come back. But we do have a procurement policy that says anything over 25,000. And, you know, you could make the same argument that we've talked about before, where you approve something in the budget, and then it comes back, and a car, and then I guess, you know, at that point, usually they haven't purchased it, you could still say no, but it would be confusing to say yes in the budget, then no when they spent it. So I would like to consider the consent and the 25,000 more of a FYI than it is an approval, but you took what you want it to be. We can do it
Yeah.
however you'd like it to be, so.
For future things, I would love to see it as an FYI, we already purchased it, so at least we know, like, oh,
And just.
I don't know if we could put that in there.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, you're good.
One thing, too, to keep in mind is this came up in our department head meeting last time, and I think it was Dean or someone had a good suggestion, or maybe it was even Chief Erickson, that said, why don't we, through the budget process, provide a document where we say, these items have been approved to purchase, don't bring them back. And you can have no items on there or 50 items on there, but then you just know what's been approved in the budget, and they can just go spend that without having to come back. And like the one time, Mr. Belknap came with something, and then I think it was kicked, and then there was a chance we were going to lose it.
Then we waited
I think
too
one of you
long,
intervened.
yeah.
I think it may have been Councilmember Lawrence intervened and said, can you keep the same price? And so it just became a little bit more complex. We don't want to pay more because it's taking longer to go through council, and you don't want that either. So, but again, we're willing to do whatever you want to do. If you want to see them before
I
they
like that
purchase.
option, I don't know, I mean,
But
to
in
me,
this specific case, the CARES Act,
Having the list
list.
of, these are the pre-approved.
Yeah.
it's kind of part of the budget
it
process.
just seems kind of redundant and also
Confusing.
stupid.
Confusing.
because- I mean, not stupid, but
Redundant is good.
redundant, yeah, that we would
Gives
bring it
kind of a
back
wrong
because it's like, well, we
impression.
couldn't even really not approve this.
But this specific one was CARES, I think.
Right,
It's a very
but-
specific situation that wouldn't happen normally, is that you kind of give us the go-ahead and the green light, and so we did that, and then didn't know how to exactly do it with the
Because I
consent.
think we just did the same thing on item D.
Yes.
Yeah, we already approved
Yeah.
the IT equipment, that's what I was gonna say, why would we even, I mean, stuff's already been bought, right? Like,
This is just an administrative thing that you guys are carrying out. We already approved it. You guys are just actually making the purchase and finalizing the paperwork and all of that. So I'm good with the list.
what does the accountant say?
I'll make a motion, we approve that item.
Okay, and anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Lortz and seconded by Councilmember Blackham. Any comments? Okay, we're going to go to a vote. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. C, Councilmember Lortz.
So I just wanted to make sure, so basically the county went to a 50/50 on the additional, and so the incremental cost to us is, what, about $8,000? So I just want to make sure that we specifically, you're going to kind of bring that up to
When before they were 80/20, right?
70/30.
70/30.
Cole, do you wanna-
So it's going to end up about
So-
65/35 is what it ends up,
But ours is $8,000 more than we were
Ours-
planning on,
than we were, well.
than that initial.
No, it's more than that.
This is a good project, but I do want to vent. And we could have gone through and approved, and hopefully the mayor would have let me vent a little bit.
Councilmember Blackham, please vent.
I absolutely
Go
want to
for it.
vent. And this has got nothing to do with Cole, because Cole did exactly what he was supposed to do. He was presented with building a bridge up there over the river. So he did his due diligence. He went to an engineer and got an engineer's estimate and the engineer's estimate came back at $120,000. How that guy missed it by that far is beyond me. That guy ought to rethink what he's doing, okay? That's my first one. But the second one is, then we went to the county for a 70-30 split. Well, projects do come in higher, which this one was a little lot higher. And so we got a grant based on a 70-30 split. And then we go back to the county and say, it's a little more money, it's going to cost you more. And then they go, oh, by the way, we're going to only do 50-50 now with you, when they were told it was come on, county. This is up on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. This is a county facility. That portion of it might be in Kaysville City. But to come back in the middle of a project and say, oh, instead of the
Changed our minds.
70-30, we're just going to do the 50-50 on the extra portion. You know, that's ridiculous.
It's Bush League.
It is, absolutely. The county should have just said, it's more money than what we thought. Darn it, we don't like that. That engineer really missed it. He ought to rethink how he's doing things. But here's your 70-30 split. That frustrated me a lot.
Yeah, but that being said, we're not going to just toss the project because of
No,
that.
it's a great project.
However,
No, it's a bridge.
now we're forewarned, right? Going forward.
from
And
now
it's
on,
unfortunate that we have to
It's
consider it
50-50.
like that, but, yes,
I
Lyle.
thought I'd mention, I'm still begging for the 70-30 split, so we may
Okay.
get there, but
Go,
the
Lyle.
indication is we'll get the 50-50, so.
Okay.
We hope we do get that.
That's just,
but we'll get
that's,
that.
And then Shane had something to say.
I just wanted to say Councilmember Blackman's right on, in my opinion, as well. And I just worried about, what if this was $80,000 instead of $8,000? $8,000 we can do, it's fine, but what if it was 80? I mean, this could really hurt us, and so I.
Right.
and-
We'd have to throw it away.
Well,
It would-
potentially. And
Yeah.
the second point is when we talked about this at department head meeting, I just said, let's start rounding up in our grant requests. I mean, if it says 120, let's tell these engineers for their opinion of cost, they don't like to use the engineer's estimate anymore, their opinion of cost to be, give us the
Yeah, but
Maximum.
this guy missed it by a country mile.
And it's a
He
weird
should have
project, and it
never
has some
missed it,
access
though.
issues, and so we're
I
trying to
think
be.
that was what I was going to say. I mean, when you read the report, it's like, okay, I can see where things change once they get into the process. But
miss
this
Hydo.
seemed like
That's so far off.
pretty far
though.
off, yeah. And it hasn't been that long
And
ago.
hopefully this contractor knows, don't come back for an extra. There will be no extras.
No change orders on this.
Well, I will say this contractor was at our pre-bid walkthrough, so he was at our walkthrough, walked the site with us. He's already been conversing with, he doesn't have approval yet, but he's been conversing with our engineer, the project engineer, on issues to deal with some things right now. So he is aware, and yes, he knows.
He clearly saw the project.
Councilmember Tran.
Thanks, I just have one question. So lessons learned, not that it will happen often, but what could we do in the future to prevent it? I mean,
And
how do you make
We
the
not put in
county?
the
if I-
contract legally that they have to do 7:30
Well,
if it goes above?
let's also remember, I can imagine what the county commissioners are probably thinking is like, hey, we're giving you a grant, you're welcome, you know?
Well, but everybody's using it, so.
So, we're grateful. We are
I would
grateful.
agree with that, though, because
Yeah.
it's a partnership. It's a
Yeah.
really delicate partnership, and so we don't, I mean, like legally, it's less of a legal document as we're working together.
But to
How are
Mike's
we
point,
doing
or
this?
Shane's point, what if it was 80,000? Then what?
Yeah.
You know,
We'd
can you
have
hold
to
them
walk
to
away.
it, or we just say,
We'd have to
we're
walk
done?
away.
That's what we'd
We
have to
wouldn't get a
do.
bridge. We would have spent 40,000 on design for
That's
nothing.
the,
For nothing.
that's the thing, I'm just wondering, can you prevent that in the future? Can we prevent that? Not really?
Really hard unless you get a full-on bid process before you actually have the county giving you the grant.
Okay.
And then you take the risk they're not going to share with you.
Okay.
And I'll just say, the difficult part is too, is because you don't go to full engineering. So when we go to get the grant, we don't have a full engineering.
It's just
to know, we're just getting an engineer to try to give us, an opinion of cost, what do you think this will be based on this? And so it is a little bit tricky, but I think what
But
Shane
these
mentioned
guys
is true.
do
Is
this every day.
Oh, I know.
Air high.
He missed that one
So-
by
Yeah.
a country
Okay.
mile.
Maybe he did air high, so he would have missed it even by more.
Maybe he did what?
Maybe he did aim high.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did they air-
okay.
So,
I just couldn't
thanks
hear
for
what you
the
were
vent.
saying.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
okay.
But all that being said, I am so excited for this bridge. I mean, talk about a good project to have. I'm glad that we were willing to put in the money, because we could have also walked away, like, it's not worth the 30%, which is now 35%, but it's
Since you
gonna
like
be
it,
awesome.
why don't you move it?
I did have a specific item for the bridge, but I'm not going to include it. I thought better. Just kidding. I'll make a motion that we approve the award of the bid for Kaysville Pedestrian Bridge in the East Mountain Wilderness Park.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Barber, seconded by Councilmember Lortz. Any comments?
I will say, I think all the council members should take our mountain bikes up there as soon as this thing is done and
Yes.
ride across. I'm not going to put it in the motion, but I'm just going to say, wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes, a ribbon cutting.
Right? And
Yes.
just
There
you go.
plow through it. That'd be
Sounds
way
fun. All right.
I'm only cutting 30% of the ribbon.
35.
35%.
And we'll invite the county commissioners.
County, yeah, he can cut 55% of it if he wants.
Will we? Yes.
They get
we
the
will.
second ride.
All right. Let's go to a vote. Councilmember Barber?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
When will this be done? I'm sorry, I should have asked that earlier. I know you said before, but
It's spring, yeah?
this fall?
This fall? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Get your bike.
And just side note, all of the recreational facilities throughout the state are being heavily taxed right now and well-utilized, is what we'll say.
That is true.
All right. Okay, let's go to E. Councilmember Lortz?
So I just wanted to clarify that on the executive summary, it says that the quote to pave the half of the road for the 900 feet was $53,000, but the attachment for the total of $56,000, and it shows Kaysville's at $14,500. I'm just trying to understand, what are we really putting in versus what's being paid by everybody else?
So
And,
I talked to Josh today.
okay, Councilmember
Okay?
Blackham.
Because I had same thing, I had an issue with the square foot price, because if you took the amount of 900 feet or whatever and divide it by half and you come back, well, it came to a lot higher than what that unit price was. So I just wanted to call Josh and clarify, and he says that Whitaker Construction has confirmed that their unit price is $295 a square foot, which is actually a really good price, and for us to be able to jump on that without having to do all the preliminary stuff that you have to do and get a road put back together is awesome. And so I just wanted to make sure, and Josh confirmed to me that that is the unit price we will be charged. The square footages might be a little different, and we actually tried to measure, and it was like 980 feet, and instead of 15 feet wide, it's actually about 16 or whatever. But the bottom line is, for what they do for Kaysville City, it will be $2.95 a square foot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. And grateful to have our liaison to Public Works checking in on that for us, so thank you. Any other questions? All right, I will entertain a motion to move item E.
I'll second. Oh,
Jump the gun there.
I'll make the motion to move item E to consent.
All right.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Adams, seconded by Councilmember Tran. Any comments? Let's go to a vote. Councilmember Lortz.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion is unanimous. And side note, I will say that our new system over in the building, there's an automatic voting system. So we
Oh.
won't have to do this. If we can fine tune it, there's some little quirks in it, but
You're saying we can't say aye, like it's a button?
it's a button.
You have been automated.
You can still say aye,
I'm
You
going
can
to
say
say
aye.
aye.
You
as you
like.
touch it.
I want my button to say aye when I push it,
See, now,
like a
John,
pirate.
you can have the fun of going,
That was easy.
All right. Okay, we're going to go on to our action items. Consideration of an ordinance amending Section 17-31-18 to refine clear view requirements for corner lots prohibiting the planting of trees. Lyle.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So just very brief, unless there are questions, we talked about this at the last meeting of the work session. Essentially, what this does is more or less the same of what our ordinance already allows, because there are already restrictions within this corner area near an intersection so that you can see oncoming vehicular traffic. But it helps us as staff essentially administer that, as there's often a debate with trees, as people say, well, if you wait 10 years, it'll grow, then it won't be in the way anymore. And we're just saying, well, let's make it clear. Let's get the trees out of that specific portion of a property. That's all it does. It's a very brief, few words to add to the text. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions from the council.
Okay, and we don't have anybody signed up to speak to this item, so we'll open it up to questions from council. Any questions from council? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion at this time. Got to get back to it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance amending section 1731-18 to refine the clear view requirements for corner lots prohibiting the planting of trees.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Lortz, seconded by Councilmember Barber. Any comments? Okay, let's go to a vote. Councilmember Blackham.
Aye.
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 Motion is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Lyle. Consideration of an ordinance amending Section 17-31-2, accessory structures of Title 17, Planning and Zoning of Kaysville City Ordinances.
Okay, and again, this is an item we discussed at the last meeting as well. There were three. One of them we'll come back to at some future date. This is another one that the council, with a couple changes, felt that it was ready to see again. Hopefully we address those correctly. So this deals more specifically with where an accessory structure, a detached garage, shed could be located within a property. I guess my exhibits I hit them in the wrong spot, so I can pull them up if we need, but two things primarily. So the council had concern about on the last meeting. One was dealing with the height that was proposed. We eliminated that, left it as we deal with it today, rather than propose any changes to it. And then the primary things that this does is allow for small accessory structures to be considered when a lot has multiple street frontages in certain circumstances closer to a street. So within a side yard abutting a street, if it doesn't also abut an existing front yard, and a rear yard abutting a street, if you got a double frontage lot. And so frontage road and others are good examples of that. That is item one. The second item was it allowed for a little bit of forward encroachment on the accessory buildings to come forward on houses that aren't necessarily box or perfect square. So an L-shaped, or I call them a T-shaped lot, if you have a covered porch or patio. It still keeps the primary bulk of the side yard clear of a building, but may let them either do an addition behind or encroaching past a detached structure, or bring that forward a little bit. So I think those are the two key items that this talks about. I can fish through I do have the exhibits here for you. That's that second item that we talked about that this would accommodate. And with that, if there are questions of this, again, with the hearing.
I have a question.
Councilmember Blackham.
As I read this.
If I could, sorry, let me just say that we
Public
usually have public comment. There's nobody, let me make sure.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure we don't have anybody. Nope, nobody signed up to speak to this, so we will go on to council questions. Go ahead.
So I do have some real issues with some of the wordage in this, and I really hate the part of taking out or required side yard. So I'm wondering if this council would possibly entertain us tabling this item and maybe letting me get with Lyle before the next council meeting and try to make this more codified or and I'll give you an example, because what happens is you have, like, here's the International Residential Code, and what they do is they give a specific and then they give exceptions, and I think what we're saying is what we're saying here is what we want, but it's hard to read it into it. And I'll just say, it says accessory buildings 200 square feet or larger, or any accessory building which exceeds 10 feet in height shall not be located in required side yard. So I sat there and I said, So if it's under 200 square feet and 9 feet tall, can I put it in a side yard? And I think it goes through and says probably not, but it's really confusing. And if you, and to tell you what I'm kind of talking about, in this code, it says, talk about landings at stairways. It says, there shall be a floor or landing at the top and bottom of each stairway. Pretty clear. There's got to be a landing at the top, one at the bottom. But then there's an exception. The exception says, a floor or landing is not required at the top of an interior flight of stairs, including a stair in an enclosed garage, provided that the door does not swing over the stair. So you see, they got the general rule, and then they come up with a real specific exception to that rule. And I think we can do that and make this clearer, because there's a couple things in there, if you look at it, like it talks about when you have if you have a patio cover that's open on 3 sides. Well, if you really look at our ordinance, it's already allowed, because if you look under the definitions, a covered patio fits under the definition of accessory building. And it's right in there, so you really could almost, but I think there's ways that we can word that, and if the council's okay, I would really like to possibly table this for a couple weeks, get with Lyle, and maybe come up with some language that's a lot clearer.
Okay, so maybe what you should do is make a motion to table it, and
Well,
then...
This is a question, I have to ask him first if he's open to.
Yeah, we don't have any specific residents or
Timeline.
cases that are dying on this. These are just items that we've
Okay.
seen on a kind of ongoing basis. So there's time for us as staff to work on clarification, and that's always welcome.
So
Tammy
why
may
don't
have-
you make a motion and have somebody second it, and then we'll have a conversation about
Okay.
it,
Tammy may
okay?
have a question on
Well, I
that.
have let's make a motion
Okay,
first.
I make a motion that we table this item.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Blackham, seconded by Councilmember Tran. Any comments or questions?
I do have a comment. I
Yes,
wanted to add
please.
too. So did you guys receive the email, the public comment, Abel, about the accessory dwelling? Okay, and how,
No, not the accessory dwelling.
it's for
Accessory building.
accessory building, I'm
Accessory
sorry,
building,
yeah.
I did.
He said
So-
it's not a dwelling.
Okay, it's not a dwelling. I
Yeah.
wanted to also kind of talk about the number 6 on here, the square footage requirement. So it's either or, whichever is more restrictive, and talk about that and see if we can, but you've already made a motion to table, so I think that that's good, but can we talk about that as well as it comes, when it comes back in?
What we need to come back with. Like,
Yeah,
that's one of the
exactly.
things.
That's one of the things I would like to discuss.
And I can kind of give you the history on the 3,000.
Okay,
Back in about 2003, the code came out, the International Residential Code, and it said that you could not have an accessory structure that was accessory to a single-family dwelling greater than 3,000 square feet. So they put that in the ordinance for me just to make it clearer. But then the code came out in about the 2012 edition, and they took it away and said there was no limitation. I asked the city to remove that 3,000, but the planning commission at that time chose not to.
oh, okay, good to
So,
know.
That's good to know.
But to the case of your guy, he still wouldn't be able to, because you still got the 20%, you can't have an accessory building more than 10% of the lot. Now,
Okay.
if he actually combined the 2 lots, then he would
He
be
did,
able
yeah.
to.
So in that situation, the 2 lots are combined as one parcel, right?
Correct. In the case, this
So-
particular example, he did a lot consolidation on the
Yeah.
plat, and
Because
he
the
does have
10%
almost
is
an
actually
acre.
good, because if you have
Okay.
somebody that has an 8,000 square foot lot, an
right.
800 square.
Would Mike have to amend his motion to remove that as well, or just to?
No, I
just
think
to-
it's being tabled,
Tabled.
and
Table for
then,
changes.
and then,
And we can talk about
Yes,
voting that as well as we look at these
offline.
others.
all right?
But Mike,
That's
what you're
fine.
saying is that the code has been changed to not
Yes.
have a square footage
Code no
requirement. So
longer
we
has the
could follow suit
3,000.
if we decided we wanted to. Okay, perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Councilmember Lords with a question?
Not to this specific, but the item that we talked about with the roof lines and the heights and that we kept to keep it the same. So I wanted to clarify, because I seen an example of where, how does it handle when you're doing that measurement of a accessory unit, or whatever we call it here, building, and it's within, say it's, next to the property line, but there's an elevation rise from the property line to where the building's being constructed. Is that height restriction inclusive of that property rise, or of just the wall height of the accessory building?
So the way that I understand it, have interpreted it, it's the height of the property line at the property line, and you draw the building envelope from that point. So if your side of the fence is taller than your neighbor's side of the fence with your grade, that could work to your advantage. If you're lower than your neighbor, that may make it trickier on how those will.
So
Switch
the
that.
the
If
lower,
you're on the lower
I guess what
end.
I'm thinking is the neighbor on the lower side,
Yeah.
all of a sudden now they've got a much higher wall. So if they say, I've got a 10-foot wall there, but it's really 16 feet above the property, adjoining property level, it's all of a sudden much taller than what you
Correct.
think it would be. And that is still acceptable then.
That would be how it's applied, I believe your understanding is correct. And that would be, under either rule, it would kind of work that way, because it's off of where it's being built, and we measure from their land.
Because to measure height, there's a definition of grade and grade plane, and you have to follow that to get the height, and it can vary. It's tough. That gets tough.
Okay.
We like flat properties, they're a lot easier.
Okay, so we're tabling. We're voting on tabling,
Yeah.
all right? Okay, any other comments or questions before we vote? Okay, let's.
So this will come back as a work item? Or an action, I guess.
Well-
Come back as an action item?
That's your
It-
direction.
What would you, whatever
back
you
as an
prefer.
I'm okay if it's action, but we
Yeah.
could, that doesn't mean we have to approve it right
Right.
then.
Right, as long as we can discuss this.
I want you to
as we
like
mentioned.
it,
Yeah,
because
we can
these
keep working
accessory
on it.
buildings are a pain.
Yeah.
And they're
okay.
hard, and they truly can really clutter up a street, or they can become a fire hazard. So we want to make sure we get it right.
Yeah,
So
for
if we
sure.
do,
Or they
let's
could
do it.
become awesome too, right?
Yeah, they can be great.
Yeah.
Like my potting shed that
Yeah,
I'm building.
yeah, absolutely.
And the problem you run into is if they're under 200 square feet, you don't need a permit.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure your ordinance is very clear. You know, that one I was explaining to you, I truly believe we're not supposed to put them in the required side yard, but taking that out and adding that little, it kind of,
Well, it kind of contradicts itself,
It
because I was
does.
reading it, it said like not in the side yard, but then the side yard is referenced like several times down below.
Yeah.
So we got to clean that up.
And you could literally reference a side yard adjacent to a street by, in the accessory building, you could say, accessory buildings in the side yard abutting a street, see section such, and then if you go to the R sections, it takes you right to, it says, on a corner lot, the side yard abutting a street, no accessory building can be closer than 20 feet, then you could put exception. Sheds and whatever less than this could be, as long as it's not in a front yard, you know, and so,
Or if it's like a greenhouse specifically.
exactly.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Let's go for a vote, shall we? Councilmember Tran.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Lyle. Okay, next we're moving on to our work items. Carbon-free power project discussion. Shane, do you want to kick this off?
can,
And we
Mayor.
have our power guys here
Yeah, we have
to-
Gary and Bruce both here, and Councilmember Lortz is going to be a real asset to us,
Asset as
too, as he
well. Thank you.
is also attending the meeting. But in a nutshell, we are at a deadline where we need to make a decision on our amount of carbon-free power project we want to participate in. The Power Board made a recommendation that we completely exit the project while still expressing support of the project and an interest in following it and potentially being involved at a later date. And what that exactly means, I think you can determine. But as many of you have probably followed, there's been a lot of news stories about this project. I think that right now we are faced with being required to either up our subscription, lowering our subscription to keep our rates lower, or staying the same and paying a much higher price. And I don't think that's something that Logan, Lehigh, or Kaysville is willing to do at this time, and as all UAMPS members. So Gary and Bruce, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, and I know that you're available to answer questions. And
Councilmember Lortz,
So
do you want to
part-
give your feedback?
Yeah, part of the challenge with this project right now is that it's a 720 megawatt project, but only has 167 megawatts that are committed for people to participate. And so as they're trying to go through these stages of the costs for the next stage and that, if people pull out, you don't just say, well, I've got 5 megawatts out of 720, I have 5 out of 167, now it's 5 out of 150. And so your
You're
participation
lower.
actually goes up, your cost for participation goes up. And UAMPS is trying to work a revision with the cost share and the risk share in the project, but they have not finished that yet. And given the ambiguity and the uncertainty about what the obligation would be for the city in this project, and knowing that it's not fully subscribed, which means it's very unlikely for it to deliver power at the rate we want it to, that's where we're saying right now, we think the safest thing for the city is to withdraw from the project, but express that if they can resolve the concerns and the issues, we'd be happy to reconsider entering again.
Yes.
Is that
Correct,
Bruce?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. We believe in the project, and I believe it's part of the future. The technology is phenomenal, and you're gonna need that for a base load, carbon-free base load, so. But as Shane said to, and Andre, even just with Lehigh and Logan going out, we only know of 3 people that have gone to their council so far out of 33 people, 33 cities that are in on this project, so. That's the hard part. They want us to vote before we really know what the end result's gonna be. We've already seen a 1% change, which is equals on our share about $100,000 over this next phase. Higher, from $700,000 to $800,000 commitment up to 2023. And we've only seen 3 people move. So what we're saying, like Andre said, that we think probably that subscription is going to go down a lot further too, which would increase our costs. And so it's sad to see that we don't have the subscription yet, but.
Shane?
Mayor, can I add one thing? One thing that I thought was really exciting about this project was the JUMP program that the DOE was participating in, where they were going to pay for the first module, and we participated in that, and then, I don't know if we need to get into the details of why, but they've pulled out of that commitment. So that really, I think, hurt the project tremendously in my eyes.
Yeah, and I think the thing that, this isn't action tonight, this is just discussion. So we do have some time. If things change, then we may change that direction. But right now, we're saying that there's too much uncertainty to really stay committed on it.
Yeah, a lot of risk right now. We're supposed to only go to the end of September is our deadline. We're trying to push them back even another week or 2, so maybe if things start to change and move, then maybe, we could push it to the first council meeting in, next month, October, so. But right now, yeah, there's too much risk to.
That brings a question. So I think it said September what you had to opt out by?
September
September
30th.
30th.
Yeah.
We don't.
So September
When's our
17th is our next
why is
council
this-
meeting.
So
This- There'd be an action item on September 17th,
Yeah.
barring any changes.
That's not too late, is it?
No.
No.
It's 2 weeks before the
But
deadline.
it's kind of early to even know what everybody else is going to do if their council meeting is the following week.
But that's also
No,
why we
September
wanted to have this
30th is
work
the
item now,
deadline,
so we could
so-
talk about it, because we're all getting a lot of phone calls about it and
September
emails,
30th.
and then have our action, so that we could follow our pattern of work item and then action
Right.
Yeah.
before.
Days before the
And
deadline.
Yes.
I do want to say that I believe in the concept but until, as Councilmember Lord says, until the ambiguity's gone, it would be not prudent to continue on at this point. So I think, anything else that we
Well, I
need
mean,
to have
as Bruce
said?
says, I mean, really, if you want to learn more about it, it is a very interesting project, the way that they're redesigning nuclear power. So essentially,
Absolutely.
Safe.
all the challenges of the past when you had a nuclear problem and the risk of leaking, the risk of failure of systems to protect
Overheating,
it, all that is gone in this design, because even if it loses complete power from whatever event around it, it's self-contained, it's buried, if you will, in water, so in a self-contained pool, so it's automatically going to cool itself off, and it's not going to contaminate anything.
Or
So, I mean,
overheat and explode.
Or overheat or
Which-
explode or anything. I mean, it's really ingenious design,
It is.
but it's brand new. They did get the NRC's
The first safety.
sign off on the first safety review of the design. So, I mean, that's a big step, but there's still a lot more they got to go through the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commissions.
And the Department of Energy, I'm sorry, Shane.
Go ahead.
Department of Energy still hasn't said what their commitment's going to be yet. On the 14th, they expect to have that decision too, so that'll give us a little more information. But like I said, Go ahead, Shane.
I just want to add that it's also available to us 24/7, 365, where people are comparing this to solar. Why don't we do solar? Why don't we do wind? Solar's great when the sun shines, wind's great when the wind's blowing, but
But
this is always available. And our coal resource, which is a majority of our resource right now, is available to us 24/7. So we're trying to, carbon-free power project is called that because
And
we're
this
trying to
is-
get out of carbon.
This is the most responsive base load you could get as far as if you need to ramp up, it's instantaneous up,
Absolutely.
instantaneous down. It's not, oh, it takes us 30 minutes to ramp up to get a couple more megawatts generated.
So now we do this and we say, we're out of this, go Bruce, find us something else to replace carbon. And
Yeah, Bruce.
can you do it before 2022? Yeah, when we're out of, the one
Well,
in
and-
Delta and.
Yeah, Councilmember Barber.
What I was going to say is, was it 2 years ago, we had them come present quite a bit
Might have
on
been.
this?
Yeah.
Was it 2 full years ago? It was quite,
Year and a
it
half,
seems
2
like a long
years.
time, but it
It
was
was
really
a while
interesting.
ago.
And we had a lot more, maybe it's just because it was on residents' mind. I had lots of feedback, lots of people who were interested, people who were saying, let's just invest in renewables. And it was an interesting conversation to say how this can fill in the gaps, how they can complement each other. It's not like we're going one way or the other. And I felt like we made a lot of headway, but then this project has hit some hurdles and everything's not planning out. And I want to say it's not because we're saying nuclear will never work. It's because this project, the rollout is just not on the timeline we were expecting and not in the payback we wanted. But we're still interested, we
Yes,
still think this
very
is
much
good.
so.
I very much think we can, I'm just glad we had these off-ramps. I remember when you presented it
Right.
2 years ago, it was saying, hey, we'll never get too far down that we can't back out. And it's just interesting to be, now we're here. We're at one of these chances, and I'm okay to take it. But I feel like there will be on-ramps. There will be on-ramps later on. Is that what you're feeling like as
Yes.
well? I mean, what are they? I mean, they
Yes.
got to be kind of sad that this is falling apart a little bit.
Yeah, we will have an opportunity if it continues, I'm sure it will, like I say, once they
It's
get
got
more
to, yeah.
subscription, then it'll be more viable, and then we'll probably come in, cost may be a little bit
I
higher,
think it will be higher.
the kilowatt hour cost, but
They should have never called it Project Chernobyl. I mean, that was the first problem.
pretty scared of nuclear, but this is safe. Yeah, the technology's awesome, so.
All right. Okay, so I don't believe we need a motion at this time. You have the feedback generally of the council.
Yeah, just wanted you to be aware and up to date, and then we'll let you know from this point on
All
what
right.
happens.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Appreciate it. All right, we're going to go to the call to the public. Just a moment. Thank you. All right, Richard Proctor, followed by Rusty Cannon.
Here I am, guys, back again. Those who were here before know that I came every week for a long time. On the subject of the Constitution, I'm a believer in the Constitution. In fact, I wrote this book. It's selling by the thousands now. People want to know what the Constitution says and what it is. Folks, the Constitution is absolutely crucial. Today, it's even more crucial than it used to be, because now we have a need to protect our property and our community. And there are governments refusing to help the citizens protect their property. I don't understand that. I don't understand why anybody would set out and say, no, we're not going to protect your property. We're going to let them burn it down and we don't care. I can't imagine that. The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence both give us the option to have a militia force for the community. And that kind of, it doesn't cost any money too, by the way, guys. I was watching your problems here. There's no cost. This is a volunteer type deal. There's no cost. What we want is we want to have a group of people that would be ready and be coordinated with the police department. I don't think the police department is sufficient to take care of the problem. It hasn't proven to be so far any place. And we don't want a foreign National Guard. Now, I don't mean that. I mean a foreign United Nations Guard coming to our town. They'll never go away. If they ever come in, they'll never go away. We've got to do it ourselves. It's not tough. I'm sure in this community we've got enough people to outnumber the 100 or the 200 that'll show up in the bad guys. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, They were coming, there was no militia, but the guys got together, said they were one, and they were standing there, and the dudes came to destroy, they saw that, they turned around and went home. And I want that for us, too. The city of Seattle had that problem, 6 blocks square, huge area. We're gonna control this, we've got it, it's ours, we're gonna do it. The city finally decided to go in and take them down. They disappeared in a flash because they didn't want a conflict. They never do anything unless they've got a group that's more, by far, than the people that are intending to protect it. So I believe that, and that's why I passed out this thing about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is way more than just having a gun. It's way more than that. We always think it's just the right to bear arms, but it's also the right to have a militia. It's the right to have a free state, and state means community as well as government, as well as the state of Utah. It means a location, a geographical place. The Declaration of Independence gives us that option. The Constitution reinforces it, and the Second Amendment reinforces it again. And those things are discussed in the item I passed out. Folks, we need to consider, all we have to do, oh, shut up. All we have to do, okay, is have a roster and people sign, say they're going to do it, and have organization meetings and that kind of stuff. That's all we have to do. We're not looking for bucks.
All right, thanks so much.
I told the thing to shut up and it didn't pay any attention. You realize that?
I'm pretty strict on the 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So, all right,
I
Rusty.
finished what I wanted to say.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Rusty Cannon, council members of the Utah Taxpayers Association. Councilmember Lortz and Barber articulated basically what we were going to say. You're all aware of our position. We're hopeful that you would back out of the project. I don't think I need to repeat anything that we probably emailed to you already. But you guys, I think, clearly have a good understanding of it. We agree with your power board as well that it's not about whether nuclear is tenable or not. We don't have a position on that. We'd love it if the technology works. But the way that the deal is structured right now is you're essentially seed capital, venture capital investors. We think that's better borne by private business, and if the technology works, come 2029 when it's scheduled to be done, you can buy market rate power at that point. That's your best case scenario. And we think the worst case scenario is that you commit to your share of the next 3 off-ramps, and it gets up into the hundreds of millions based on the subscription share that you guys have. And that could be borne by the ratepayers, worst case scenario, taxpayers of Kaysville. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, all right, councilmember reports. Anybody, Councilmember Blackman?
I just want to report that I think next year right now, Public Works, and Shane can chime in too, has decided that they do not want to take on any major projects next year. They want to focus more on doing some rehab and going in and doing a lot of maintenance on the roads and doing a lot of repair to save the ones that we have, that if we get to them, we'll get a lot longer use out of them. And I think that's the direction the city's going to go, because we've done some major projects the last few years, and I think it's taxed what they can do, and I think they want to focus on, let's get some maintenance done on a lot of roads that would probably save us a lot of money in the long run, and I think that's a really good idea, and I just wanted to let you know.
Excellent.
Great.
Sunset's awesome, by the way.
Yes.
Oh.
It is, it's
Yes,
nice.
Councilmember Tran and I were just talking about that today. It got done, I think, a week after school started, and we were planning on it being like months after.
Yes,
I mean, it's not
so
done,
fantastic.
but it's open, people can get through. I'm like, where was the huge celebration? We really, because it was technically ahead of schedule because of all of the things that set them back. So,
Every car that went down had a huge celebration.
yeah, seriously, that's true, that's true. I guess we were independently celebrating.
Yes.
But anyway, huge thank you. That's so nice.
And
be done.
a thank you to our residents because of the road fee. The road fee has made it possible for us to be able to take down these really big projects that would have taken years and
Never.
years and years for us
never would have
to
gotten
notch off. So a thank you to our residents for the road fee. Councilmember Lortz?
So I hear last week we had a power outage, And
That's really rude that
I didn't have it.
rubbing it in like that.
Because where were you?
well,
Pretty much.
whether I was in Kaysville or not, it didn't matter. My power didn't go out. But I did talk with the gentleman. Unfortunately, they've left. But it sounds like it was one of the panels. Half of it went out. They weren't sure if it really got hit by lightning, but it may have looked to everybody like it did when it went and blew. But the lucky thing was, I mean, as everybody knows, within a few hours, they redirected power through the other substations to get everybody back on. And they had actually the part they needed to get it repaired. So, kudos to them for being ready for that kind of an unforeseen circumstance to happen. I mean, obviously, a substation going down in our city, we only have a few of them, so it's not very good if you lose one of those. That puts a lot of burden on everything else in the system. So kudos to them for being prepared. And we're going to have their reliability study coming up here in October.
And it seems to me that our power system has become more reliable. Like this summer, usually in the spring, we start getting power outages as soon as people start using their air conditioners more. I didn't hear a whole lot of that this
No.
time around. So I think that
But we did peak
we're
at a new
improving.
record 52 megawatt usage when we hit that in August, the 105.
Because everyone was
So
home
hot.
too.
Yeah, that's true.
We're all home. We're all.
So-
What day was that? Do you know what day that was? Was it just a super hot day?
Yeah, I think it was like August
I
13th or
heard that on the
something.
meeting, but, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think it's super hot, we're all home. We're all working at home. We're all.
But the system handled it just fine,
we did
and
fine.
Yeah.
so it was good.
So, kudos to them. Councilmember Barber?
Oh, not anything. Parks and Rec, just things are going great. It's fun to see kids playing.
Okay. Councilmember Adams?
Nope, nothing for me.
I'm interested in finding out how Youth City Council is
Oh, yeah, we
going.
are.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Yeah.
Okay,
They've
we're
been
going to need to
appointed,
do
yeah.
a swearing in.
We need to do a swearing in, yeah.
Okay, can we do that our first meeting? Wouldn't that be
That
fun?
would be awesome.
In the new
October
building?
1st. I think we just show
October
up
1st?
and
Okay.
bombard the building, ready or not.
Here we come. All right.
lawyers
I
let me know.
wouldn't just show up. The militia might be there.
Okay. So let's.
That is a really good idea, though.
Okay,
Really
so
good
let's
idea.
get that on the agenda,
Okay.
yeah? Okay. Councilmember Tran, anything?
Just that the business outreach for the CARES, with the CARES funding was so fantastic. I saw the Hometown Value magazine today. Looks great, all the spots were full. My local Utah, I think, is going to publish in maybe a week, right? Lyle, a weekish. Anyway, it was just such a great opportunity for local businesses to be able to advertise and to do it with CARES funding. It's been fantastic, and we've had a lot of really positive feedback. People were really grateful for it, so encourage everyone to support, shop local, and, yeah, it's great. And really kudos to community development, to Lyle. He did a great job working long hours to make sure that that happened, so thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, I've got a couple of things. Now, 2 council meetings ago, we did mention that maybe it'd be good to mention what we're spending our CARES money on. So I just printed off the list that we got from Shane. In administration and IT, masks, cleaning supplies, and guards, those are the clear plexiglass things, software and equipment for promoting working at home and Zoom meetings, additional security software to protect the network while allowing employees to work from home. And community development, various mailers to promote business, as Tammy was just mentioning, and Kaysville Cash. Fire department hazard pay. Various equipment and medical equipment to safeguard employees and the public while transporting and providing services. In legal software for promoting working from home. Parks, building and recreation, masks, cleaning supplies, equipment and guards, upgrades to buildings, air filtration systems, HVAC, additional equipment and supplies to eliminate sharing of equipment, various sanitizing stations, water bottle fillers, trash receptacles, police hazard pay, various online trainings, additional workspaces, and various equipment to promote safe work environment. So this is what we are spending our CARES money on. I feel that it's very well vetted out, and I know that they had very rigorous discussion on how we could best use the money that we received. All right, a couple other things I
Can I
want.
ask a question on that?
Of course.
Do we, is it use it or lose it type of thing, or is it they distribute?
Yes.
And have we used it all? I mean, just when you said HVAC, my brain clicked to the Parks and Rec, talking about the buildings that need new HVAC. I'm just saying, like, if we have extra, it'd be sure nice to refresh those buildings that don't have correct HVAC. Anyway, I don't know if that's appropriate in this meeting, but I'm just,
Yeah.
I'll give you a short answer.
Yeah.
We received 2 installments of the 3 installments that we could get. So the state makes that determination whether we get all 3, 2, that we're planning on 3. So that the amount of money that we've allocated has been to use all 3 of those funds sources.
so it's,
So we have allocated everything we're going to allocate, but at the same time, we've asked a lot for estimates and things that we think that at the end of the 3 installments, we may have some funds left over for something like that. So we're still accepting, if new ideas come, we want to address those as well.
Okay. Another thing that I'd like to announce is that we have a new sergeant, and it's Sergeant Cade Bradshaw. That decision was made yesterday. We, here in Kaysville, we kind of have an embarrassment of riches. We have really great people and great folks to choose from. And Sergeant Bradshaw is coming to us. He was at Davis High as a community resource officer, and so we'll obviously be needing to put somebody new there. But congratulations to Sergeant Bradshaw. It was a very rigorous process and very competitive, and congratulations to everybody who participated in that. I also want to make mention, Wasatch Integrated Waste, there is a new sorting facility online now, and what happens is they sort through all of the trash that comes through, and they're pulling out all the recyclables, and so that we are putting less into our landfill. They're also going to be pulling putrescibles to be able to hopefully do put in an anaerobic digester, et cetera. So they're doing a great job of being able to make sure that we extend the life of our landfill. And I think that's everything that I need to tell you for right now. But I'm going to try, I go to so many meetings, I want to make sure that I communicate both to the council and to the community what's going on in all these various meetings. So, thank you. Shane, any comments?
Maybe just to piggyback on Sergeant Bradshaw, I mentioned this in my weekly email, but it was just really incredible to me. I just wanted to impress upon you the process that they went through to put these, I think there was 5 that were applied for that position, from media interviews, the scenarios, the formal interviews, the written information they had to provide. It was a day long. I'm sure it was super stressful for them, but just what a professional police department we have. I just wanted to emphasize that.
And we appreciate that. All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
We'll just make that your permanent deal.
Oh, I forgot.
We'll make that
We've
your
got some-
permanent deal.
The motion?
Did I go?
Does he get a button?